Well, lots of talk about immigration, but the government is running out of money. We're out of cash a week from today, and lawmakers, well, they're not even close to any long-term spending fix. CNS News Editor-in-Chief Terry Jeffrey fears kicking the can down the road will put us in an even bigger fix. Well, yeah, I don't know that anyone disagrees with you, but it feels like that's the only thing they know how to do. Terry?
It's the only thing they know how to do, Charles. You know, the Treasury's put out its new monthly Treasury statement, which has the tax and spending numbers for the first quarter of fiscal 2018, which is a year over which President Trump and a Republican Congress had total fiscal control. They control both houses of Congress. The president signs or doesn't sign spending bills. He's actually signed 5 spending bills as president now. But in that first quarter of 2018, the government ran a $225 billion deficit in just 1 quarter of the year, while taxing away more in individual income taxes than ever before in the history of the country in the first 3 months of a fiscal year. $390 billion in individual income taxes. So you have a Republican government, Charles, taxing more than ever, spending more than ever, and continuing to run up that debt.
And that's not going to change because what we saw with tax reform, that there was nothing about spending cuts. And of course, it's always been a political third rail. But their argument was, hey, if you allow us these tax cuts and these low tax rates, particularly now on the business side, 21%, it will generate enough economic activity that will start to whittle down that debt. Is that a possibility? Is that sort of the supply side dream? Do you see it working?
Well, I think I do believe that especially the business side of the tax cut will spur growth in the economy. I think it's already doing it. But, you know, it was 12 years. It's been since 2005 since we've had 3% GDP growth. I suspect in 2017 we broke that bad string. We may well have had 3% GDP growth for the year. But even with that, the government spent too much and increased debt. And even though we had record tax revenue, they still had that debt. So unless they control spending, they're not going to be able to control the deficit, and they're not going to be able to bring down the debt. And the thing, Charles, is not only will the Republicans not deal with the massive, big, fundamental spending issues like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they won't even deal with little things. President Trump, in his budget proposal, to his credit, called for eliminating about 60 government programs and agencies. No more funding for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, for example. Legal Services Corporation being phased out. National Endowment for the Arts being eliminated. The Republicans have done none of those things. And in the discussion of the CR we're going to have to see by next Friday, right, so the government shuts down, you haven't heard them talking about anything like that. They're not even talking about defunding Planned Parenthood.
Well, there's going to be probably, Terry, more spending, right, in the CR. I mean, you're going to have a wall that's you got to pay for and some other things. So we're actually looking at more spending. So that gets me back to the original premise when Steve Mnuchin and others say, hey, let us do it this way. And to your point, 2005, that was the year, you know, third quarter of 2004, where the President Bush's tax repatriation plan went into effect. And it was around for a year. I think it's interesting that those are the last 2 years that America grew at 3%. So is there some hope? We start to bring trillions back from overseas. We reignite this economy here. And then somewhere along the line, they find religion again, or at least they find their talking points. And they actually say we'll go after some of these before these third rail issues.
You know, I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't think so. I think we're going to see economic growth. We're going to see an increase in federal revenues. I don't think we're going to see fiscal discipline from the Republicans. Yeah, I've been watching these guys for a long time. When they're not in power, they talk really hard about rolling back government, about small government, about cutting spending. When they get in power, they do not do it. And if anybody understands the fiscal situation the country faces, it's Paul Ryan. He understands it. He knows it. He's a smart guy. So far, he's not using his speakership to do constructive things to deal with the fiscal crisis we're ultimately going to face.
Yeah,
I wish Paul Ryan would start acting like the backbencher Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Now that he's speaker.
It's a lot easier to talk and flex when you're not in power, isn't it, Terry? Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.